evidence and research report that show that women have been disproportionately affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Progress towards gender equality over the last 25 years could actually be unraveled by COVID-19. A lot of countries have gone into lockdowns, and the lockdowns imply that both parents need to stay at home, and caregiving needs have increased. And we know as well that in society, women are the primary caregivers to both young and the elderly. It has been a juggle for women to balance both work and family demands working from home. So with that in place, we've seen dropouts of women more than men from the workforce, and this has implications throughout the pipeline for women. Be it their retirement adequacy as they leave the workforce and they don't earn any income, to even mental wellness, where support for them at home may not be there, and also generally the family's economic well-being, and you might say on a broader scale, the country as well. The gender gap is still very much alive in not just Singapore but across the world. By gender gap, what do you measure, right? You could measure pay equity, you could measure representation in the workforce. So these two are very quantitative measures of gender gaps. And if you look at representation across where women are found in workplaces, it is quite apparent that women are still not holding the senior leadership positions, in jobs that pay better, and as a result, the gender pay gaps is still very much alive. So I think to see progress in these areas, firms who are sincere in addressing these gender gaps need to start measuring, tracking, and reporting on gender progress. So until they do so, I think the pace of progression in closing the gender gaps remain glacial, and it will take a lot of remedial actions to close these gaps. I find that there's certain ingrained gender attitudes that are still hard to dispel. So these gender attitudes are not only amongst men, but also amongst women. And one of these attitudes is really the perception and role of women at home and in the community. So now when I mentor younger women, when they're quite young, 20s to 30s, and looking to start a family, very often a lot of them still think they have to make a choice, between a career and family. And just like what I told myself when I was younger. But nonetheless, with my experience now, right, having gone through, being a primary caregiver to my children and holding a fairly challenging job in a dealing room, in a very male-dominated environment, this sort of mindset still exists. So I think if I were to tell the young women and men today, right, it may not need to be a choice. What needs to happen is that there needs to be facilitation of women's success in the workplace through various things. The advice is that if you do want to make it work for yourself, balancing both work and family, you need to tell yourself that you need to set up your support structure, work for an organization that promotes balance on both sides, and you can have it both, actually.